supposed to be 30 degrees tonight.
For all of 15 minutes, it's going to be cold.
This will be the second winter we have this year.
Good morning, Lions. How you like this weather today? 72 degrees, no wind, almost perfect. So enjoyed it. As well enjoyed being a Lion. The greatest club on earth.
Hey!
Lion Mike, can you?
Hey!
Lion Mike, can you lead us in prayer, please?
Father God, we thank you for this day in which you've given us. We thank you for the beautiful weather and the sunshine and the opportunity to just laugh and visit around the table. We thank you for the food and those who work so hard to prepare it. And as always, above all, we thank you for the opportunity to serve you in this community, in this great place we get to call home. And God, thank you so much for the impact we get to have in the lives of those around us. And God, we just pray that through it all, you would be honored and glorified. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Mr. Townley, can you lead us in song and plays, please?
My country is a lean, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of thy pilgrim's pride, from every mountainside, let freedom ring. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Well, let's see. Did we got any guests in row number one?
Hey, you know what? You think I can do it.
All right. How about row number two? We got any guests today?
I brought my business partner, Sharon Lawrence, to join us today.
Hey!
All right. How about row number three? Larry. All right. Welcome, Larry. How about row number four? All right. Okay. Guests are welcome. And we go with the care report. Alfredi, can you come out, please?
It's Alfredi. Don't say nothing, Benny. Benny, don't be saying nothing. He's one. Tells her to hurry up.
I'm sure you all noticed that Bill Smith isn't here today.
Yeah.
His mother-in-law passed away, and the funeral will be tomorrow
Where's that, here? Or
here in town.
in town? Okay.
It's at the Trinity Lutheran Church at 10 a.m. Jack Jackson is still at the Timberwood Hospital, and I just found out that Woody Reeves is in the Bradford. So I'm sure that both of them would like to have visitors. Does anybody have anything to add? Thank you.
Woody Reese has been a member of our club in about 15, 20 years. I never seen him.
Thank you, Alfredi. Our attendance today is 60 members and 2 guests. I'm going to turn the microphone to Henry Egger to introduce his guests today.
One of the flags are having this today. One of the flags are having this today. There's a living legend. I didn't know. I just know.
No, I didn't. Somebody asked me that.
Today we have Larry James with us. Larry grew up in Houston, but his family's from out in DeSoto, Midway, kin of the Walkers and people out there. Some of you guys might know him, but he lives out there now and he does a lot of traveling. He taught school for about 15 years in the special ed department, and I think the 2 topics he's going to talk on today you'll find interesting is some personal experiences from his travels. So let's welcome Larry.
Hey, Larry.
Hi, folks.
Hello.
I spoke with y'all about 12 years ago. It's the last time I visited with y'all. And my life's changed a lot since then. I used to be a school teacher back then. And during my years of teaching, being a single person, I travel. So when summer comes along, I travel. Christmas, spring break, Thanksgiving.
Can you turn
name
the
it.
lights off, please?
I'm going to travel. So anyway, when I was here 12 years ago, technology hadn't caught up with me. So I couldn't show my pictures. I survived the tsunami in 2004. I was in Phuket, Thailand. And I have some pictures from some folks that they took these pictures. They were from Montana. And they basically rescued the buddy of mine that we were traveling. And this family was nice enough to give us clothes and food and helped us get through a couple of days till we could get, in contact with our families and things. I'm going to show a few of those quick pictures, and then I'm going to tell you about my recent travels. Here, I retired from Livingston in 2007, and since then I've been building houses. So I did go to grad school for a while. I moved to Thailand after the tsunami, and I taught school for a year there. So it's not coming up.
Uh-oh.
Exactly. Kudos.
Technology's failing me again, folks. Where's that young guy that was here a while ago?
Long gone. Mitch, help us.
Oh,
Get camera technique.
oh, camera.
Neil?
You don't want me messing with it. Tell Michelle, be the hero today. Come on,
Yeah,
you can do it. I see you on.
I don't even want to get a new cell phone because I don't want to have to learn it. I'm with you. I'm not ever going to get
We had it on earlier.
It's blinking. There it goes.
I kind of see something there. But anyway, folks, I love Polk County. I love living here. I love my family out in the Soda community. We say Sody if you're from Soda. Like Henry had mentioned, my family's been around for generations. We've been here about 150 years now. If there's a history here, is it coming up? Okay. Folks, this is in Phuket, Thailand. I had gone to the beach that morning, and the ocean had literally disappeared. It had receded to the horizon, and I didn't know what was happening. Now, I have a degree in geography, so you'd think I'd know this sort of thing, but I didn't. And people had ventured out onto the flat because the ocean had completely receded. So there were ships and boats, and people were scavenging and looking for coins and jewelry and stuff. Folks, this is my actual bungalow back here. This is in front of my hotel. And literally I had gone out there, and I asked the guy setting up the chairs. I said, what's going on? He said, there was a full moon last night, and the tide will be in a minute. Well, 2 minutes later, someone screams, and people had literally ventured out onto the flat. And here came the first wave of the tsunami. And now, folks, it wasn't some 10-story high thing. It was like a flash flood. And it came, and I'm standing there at the breakers, and I'm thinking, well, that's an odd wave because it was coming at a speed beyond the imagination. Some people said 600 miles per hour, but I couldn't say. So anyway, I'm standing there, and I'm thinking, well, that wave's going to come right here and stop. It didn't. It kept coming at me. So at that point, I turned and ran, and basically survived the tsunami. My friend that was traveling with me got hurt pretty badly. And at one point in time, he had a separate room from mine, so we didn't know where each other was for about a half a day. And I had come to the conclusion that he was dead. Folks, these are looters. They were everywhere. It took 10 minutes after the waves stopped. The looters just started hitting everything. This car right here, this Mercedes, is the one that saved my friend. The second wave pulled him out of his hotel room, through the lobby of the hotel, into the street. And the street was flooding. And he was about to be pulled down the storm sewer. And he grabbed the door handle of that Mercedes. and he floated holding onto the car. A man jumped off a building onto the top of the Mercedes and pulled Jeff up onto the car, and then they rode the car until it slammed into the other pile of cars, and they were able to climb off. I didn't get to show these 12 years ago, and I want y'all to, I'm sorry. Folks, this looks like we're celebrating. The truth of the matter here, Jeff's crying. Because we were in a situation where we weren't sure where we stood, didn't know, we had no money, no food, no clothing, nothing. Our hotel had a sister hotel, and that's where most of these pictures are taken. One thing I can say about humanity is we come together. You put all your differences aside. Whatever your faith or your skin color or whatever, you put that aside because people need your help. And this is just to show you the destruction that happened. Now, my hotel was unusual compared to all the others. It was the only one on the beach. All the others were opposite the street. So, folks, this particular alley here, I had to run down that alley, and there were so many of us that trying to get through the bottleneck of people, and the water was getting deep, and we had to climb up on a roof and jump down into a yard and to get away. And that was relatively successful. I met several people in my escape. This Australian guy named Jim came to me, and he said, "Man, what's going on?" And I said, "I think we've just had a tsunami." And by this time, people are coming out of the buildings, and y'all don't need to see my friend Connie. So anyway, that was our experience with that. And I'm glad I survived, as you can see. And again, the kindness of all the people. We stayed there for 2 days until we could finally get out of Phuket, Thailand, and made our way to Bangkok. And once we got there, my friend that was traveling with me, I kept saying, "You know, Jeff, we need to go home. Our families want us to come home." "Well, we still have 4 days on our vacation." So anyway, we got him all stitched up, and that was okay. And so that we survived that. And being a teacher here in Livingston, the whole community came together for me, folks. I was getting emails from my principals and people around the community, and it was truly a blessing to know that I come from a community that cared that much for me. So I'm proud to say I'm part of this community, and I thank you for all the support I received back then. Here in the last few years, I think I mentioned that I build houses now. When I stopped teaching, I started building spec homes, and I've built 4 in the last 5.5 years, and ask me in 5 years if I did okay, because I'm not sure at this point. So, but anyway, here in the last few years, everyone has this joke around Livingston. If you're going on vacation, call Larry James. And wherever he's going, don't go there. That's the joke. Folks, I've had all kinds of perils happen to me over the years through travel. In 2001, I got the bright idea that I wanted to teach internationally. So I left Livingston and I went to Kuwait and started a career to teach in Kuwait. While I was there, it was in 2001, and September the 11th happened while I was there. So things got pretty goofy while I was in Kuwait. Didn't really like the place. Not that the people weren't kind or friendly. It's just that when I stepped off my airplane and it was 120 degrees, and then they hauled me to this little cruddy apartment, and then I start hearing the prayer caller at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I'm telling myself, what have I done? What on earth have I done here? I've made a horrible mistake. And then I went on through the teaching, and then when September the 11th happened, they seized our passports and refused the teachers' travel. So I had already helped 2 other teachers get out of Kuwait, because we were basically having to sneak out of the country because the school refused to let us have our documents to get out of the country. So at one point I got paid on a Friday. They gave us back our passports the day before, and this was probably 6 or 8 weeks after September the 11th. And so I had planned it. I'm getting out of here. So I didn't tell any of my colleagues. I told no one. I didn't even tell my family. So in the September 25th of that year, I called a taxi. We had a regular driver. And I called my driver, and I said, look, I need to be at the airport at midnight. I said, I have a flight. And he said, okay, Mr. Larry. So anyway, I'm going to use some accent, folks. I'm not trying to be, but it's funner that way. All right, so anyway, 10 o'clock rolls around, and Muhammad, that was my driver, had not come to get me. So Muhammad says, finally, 10:30, I call Muhammad. Muhammad, where are you? I have to be at the airport by midnight. He said, oh, Mr. Larry, I thought you meant tomorrow morning. I'm going, okay, maybe there was some language conflict there. So anyway, he comes and he gets me. And at this time, I've got big luggage because I've had, everything I had for the time to be there. So the manager of my apartment comes out. Mr. Larry, where are you going? I'm going to meet my mother in Bahrain. I bought all this stuff for her to take back to the States. So I had to kind of fib on what I was doing. So anyway, after that, I got the car and we're going down the freeway. And he runs out of gas. And we're just over an overpass. And so I said, well, what are we going to do? I said, I have to be at the airport now. He said, someone will help us. Inshallah, God willing, someone will help us. So anyway, so I thought, cars are coming over and almost hitting us. So I get out of the car and I just go stand on the side of the highway. And he keeps going, Mr. Letty, come back to the car. I'm going, no. So then a few minutes later, a car does come over the hill and pulls up right behind me. He says, will you get in the car now? I said, okay. So then he pushed us. This guy pushed us all the way to a gas station. We got gas. And then we went on into the airport. And I wasn't sure I had all my documentation together because my school had told us that we were not legally able to leave the country. And I took it upon myself that I'm going to try anyway. So my documentation went all through. I went through customs. And then I bought a newspaper. And then I hid behind a pillar because I was totally convinced that they were going to find me. Because they had already told us that they were going to prosecute us, if not put us in jail if we chose to leave without permission. So if there's any young people out there considering teaching internationally, truly look into it. Don't just go blind because it's there's still good places out there, but you take some risk when you do this. But after September the 11th in Kuwait, I was teaching geography and English, and my 7th graders, before September 11th, they were very pro-American. We love you and all of this. But like 2 days after September the 11th, the entire city of Kuwait and country basically turned on all the American teachers and the Americans living in Kuwait. My students basically said to me, Mr. James, your country deserved this. And I said, I'm not understanding you. What do you mean that our country deserved this? Well, folks, without getting too political, it all had to do with Israel and the conflicts between Muslims and Jews. And at this point, we were really knocked down as far as I always felt a little second class there because they kind of make you feel that you're not quite at their level. But after that, they started throwing rocks at us, trying to spit on us when we went down the streets and things. So, it's a situation where, that's one of my perils. And again, the tsunami. And then, believe it or not, in 2010, I moved to Thailand. The country's beautiful, folks. If you ever want a beautiful place to see, it's a beautiful country with lots to do. So anyway, I taught school there. At the time, they had what was called the Red Shirt Uprising. And it was kind of a civil unrest. And so the people that were protesting would wear red shirts. And so... and they were all over because it looked like the country was about to have a civil war. I mean, they were shooting at hotels and having all kinds of things going on. And so one evening I was eating in a little restaurant in the downtown area, down a side street. And anyway, all of a sudden we start hearing explosions. So the rebels are shooting grenades, a type of launch grenade, at the SkyTrain, which travels through the city. So all of a sudden, dust and debris is raining down, and somebody says, y'all got to get out of here, because we were down a dead-end alley. So somebody says, So he said, well, all right, we need to get out of here. So I can remember running down the alley and getting out into a main street. And literally by this time, the Army had come in and they had set up barbed wire and stuff. And here where I'm having to run through barbed wire. And I'm thinking, well, this is Beirut or something, So anyway, I got through that experience. And one particular day, I wasn't thinking to myself, I had a nice red shirt, and I decided to wear my red shirt that day, not even thinking. And I'm walking through the streets of Bangkok, and everybody's going, yeah, yeah, and clapping for me when I'm walking by, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? So anyway, then finally somebody said, oh, your red shirt. And I'm thinking, I turned around, I went back to the house, and I changed clothes, because really it was getting kind of scary. It was getting they'd blown up a couple of phone booths near my apartment, and so, that's just one of those things. And but folks, bad things don't happen to me when I travel all the time. I've been all over the world. I'm not going to stand here and brag about where all I've been, but I've been a lot of places, and I've had a lot of cool experiences, and some perilous ones. But my advice to you, instead of, not going where Larry James goes, go with me and I'll get you out of any kind of trouble you're in. Because, the Dos Equis man, the most interesting man in the world, he's got nothing on me. So next time Dos Equis needs a new representative, I'm available. I'll grow a big mustache if I have to. Folks, here in the last couple of years, I've been on trips to India and Turkey and Greece and lots of other different places. And I truly have fun traveling. I even like airports. All right. I thought India was pretty exceptional. As far as places I've been in the world, it's right up there with the top 10. I enjoy the ancient world. I like seeing ancient architecture. I like ruins. This is outside the entrance before you go into the Taj Mahal, which is one of those things I always wanted to do and a place I wanted to see. That's Connie in the red. So, but I've done some stupid things that I intentionally did. I've jumped off a cliff. I've done some pretty stupid things. But now that I'm getting older, no. Folks, the Taj Mahal really is an exceptional thing to see if you ever have an opportunity to travel to India. And you get beyond the poverty. I mean, literally, you have to put on blinders because it's so prevalent everywhere. But when you go into these shrines and things, they're quite beautiful, and they take really good care of them. And so it's not like it's poverty in these situations. Everything's really crowded. But I honestly say that as far as India goes, it's one of those things where it's the whole senses. The smell, taste, everything is pretty incredible because it's so different from what we have here in the United States.
You get to go inside?
You can, but there's not really any rooms in there. There's some side rooms that they have some coffins in, or kind of like crypts. And the building's much bigger than you think until you get right up to it and you realize the building's huge. It's an enormous building. We'll go back in a minute. I can't get Connie to go again. I don't know why, but now keep in mind most of the architecture and stuff, they're really big on, especially if it's a Muslim shrine, they want you to put on cover your feet, and oftentimes the women have to cover their heads or wear some type of covering. But again, India is another place that I truly recommend to go visit. Does anybody have any questions for me? I know that y'all... Yes, sir.
When you book your travel, do you book your own, or do you...
I do. I've got to where I'm pretty good at it at this point. Folks, I watch all of the travel sites. And when the bargain fare comes along, I grab it. In the houses that I built in the last few years, I use a credit card. And all of my building materials and stuff come from my credit card. So then I have frequent flyer miles. So generally, I can come up with enough miles every year to take a couple of pretty substantial trips because I do it that way. Connie mentioned to me, Larry, why don't you talk about ways for people to earn miles that go on trips? It's easily done. The key to travel is just be brave enough to do it. And chances are you're going to have a great time. If you go with an open mind and not be too judgmental, the world is an awesome place. Yes, sir.
Do you prepare ahead of time what you're going to see, or do you get there?
Generally, always. Yeah.
You leave spots open if you find something of other interest? Or?
Exactly. Sometimes when I travel. Now, when I travel alone, I go, what's my backpack in my bag, and then I don't book hotels. I just do as I go. But usually when you're traveling with friends and stuff, they don't like that. Walking a half a mile with your luggage. So, and I'm accustomed to that. So, but truly, India was incredible. I'm wanting to plan a trip to Sri Lanka here real soon, and I think here in a few months, Connie and I are going to go to Portugal and Spain. So I know, folks, y'all got family that travels, so it's me showing you these pictures. I just I hope it entertains you a little and kind of gives you a perspective of what I do when I travel. So. And I appreciate Henry inviting me to share this with y'all. And no tsunamis or anything like that since then. And I'm glad for that.
How many countries have you been to?
32 or 33. And I have a rule on that. Cruise ships don't count. Okay. Airports don't count. You have to spend the night there. That's the only way you can count a country is if you spend the night there. At least that's my rule. Because an airport's that's not a country. You're in an airport. So, but what amazed me most about India is the opulence of these palaces and things. Someone back then had a lot of money. The Maharajis had lots and lots of money because they lived these extremely, almost decadent lives as far as their wealth and how they spent their money and things.
When you're traveling back to the U.S. from the other countries, what is their security like versus ours at our airports?
Sometimes more, sometimes less. To give you an example, I was in Nicaragua a couple of years ago, and I thought it was very lax. Almost scared me. It was so lax. And other times, I can say for myself, one time I was in Hong Kong at the airport, and no one was really watching my friend and I, and we started just wandering around the airport in between our flight, and the next thing you know, we come up the back way where the others are supposed to board. And we're standing there, and they're like securing all these people, and we're going like, and they said, well, how did you get around this way? We said, well, we just walked. There was no sign. So there's still some dangers out there. I mean, none of them are perfect. But for the most part, my advice is don't upset customs. Seriously. Seriously, can I see some hands of people who have been through customs in Houston? Do not open your mouth. Don't have an opinion. Don't aggravate them. Don't try to be funny. That's the number one because they will. They'll pull you aside quicker than you can blink an eye. And so even after the tsunami, I had to get a new passport in Bangkok because mine was lost to the Indian Ocean. And so anyway, when I got my new passport, and came into Houston, I didn't sign my temporary passport. 5.5 hours later, y'all, they finally let me out of the airport, and I'm trying to tell them, look, I just lived through a tsunami. This is a temporary passport. So, but, hey, they protect us, so I'm not going to begrudge these people. Thank God we have them.
There to use guides when you go?
This particular trip, we had our own driver and car. So it worked out awesome. Our driver took us wherever we went that day, and then in turn would take us home in the evenings, pick us up the next morning, and very affordable. You wouldn't think Each of us did a 9-day trip that included the driver, hotel, and breakfast every morning, and it was like $525 each. Now, that was just land portion. That was not the flight there, but that's to give you some idea of how affordable it is. And we really liked having our own driver because you feel comfortable that way when someone,
Were you referred to a driver? You just randomly picked one?
No, we had arranged it ahead of time for the trip.
Somebody gave you a reference to that?
Well, I found him online, and then the tour package company, I don't know if that's Shiva or what of them, folks. I'm sorry if I can't tell you who the Buddhist, the Hindu gods and things are. The elephant ride was especially fun. When you get two people, when you get someone my size, I'm not going to pick on Connie. When you get my size and you start trying to climb around on the elephant, it's not so easy to do. And it kind of rocks you back and forth, and it was a fun experience. This particular fort is called the Amber Fort, and it's in Jaipur, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. Jaipur is where they filmed the movie, the Best Marigold Hotel. I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with the movie, but I'm just blown away by the architecture. They even have their own Great Wall in India. It's running up here. And they never seem to mention that India has a Great Wall as well. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Connie must be a great woman.
Connie's an awesome woman. I should have married her 35 years ago when I had a chance, but I didn't. So I've had to wait for her to go through 2 husbands. So,
Oh, wow. She might not like you if you put the business out there.
and she doesn't like when I say that. I had to wait for you to get through 2. Well, I've got another name for her, 2 former husbands, but
It's never too late.
Larry, have you ever been to Russia?
I haven't. I'd like to go, but Vladimir Putin's not my best friend these days, so I don't know.
Larry, you come down to southern India?
I didn't, and I'm wanting to plan that trip as well. I'm wanting to. I got to see New Delhi, but I didn't get to go to Mumbai, which used to be. Folks, this is for real here. I almost stumbled over this snake.
Larry, did you find all the phone banks in India?
Phone banks, yeah. The bathroom, I'm not going to describe to y'all, but it's an experience.
There it is.
Is that there at Fort too?
Yeah, that's this flooded palace out in the middle of a lake. And I said, can you go out there to it? No, it's got water in it. Well, okay, so anyway, this is the Maharaji's, their carriages and stuff. There's a museum there that has all their different carriages, but of course, a lot of these Maharaji's had 10 and 12 wives. Some had 50. How many of you guys would like to have 50?
No. Oh, man.
One's plenty, huh?
There'd be a lot of divorces.
Is that it?
Super Joe.
Anyway, funny, when we were traveling to India, the guide, when you hand them the camera, they'll take 20 of the same picture. So this morning when I was kind of going through this, I deleted half of them because they're multiples of the same pictures. A few years ago, I decided that I still am considering living overseas. I like Central America. I really like Nicaragua and Guatemala and Costa Rica and Panama. I went in there to look at possibly retiring there. Not that I'm some spokesperson here for Central America, but folks, you want to live cheap, you can live cheap and live pretty well. I'm still considering maybe moving to Nicaragua in a few years. I've got elderly parents, and I'm going to, We'll see how that goes over the years. But I would like to live overseas again. All right, folks, that's about all I've got for you.